the reason it was towards the end of January that the water started coming up, and it gradually came up, and people didn't realize it was coming up because there was snow on the ground, and it was coming up in the gutters and things. They didn't really. Anyway, it was a Friday night, and my parents picked me up to take me home for dinner. We got to our house, and we had a basement. And the basement had water in it, so the furnace was flooded, so we couldn't have a fire. So we got in the car and went back to my aunt's, which was just a little 3-room apartment. She and her husband didn't have children then. So we were just going to spend the night. So my dad parked the car on the street, and I don't know where we slept. I guess I just slept. I don't remember that. But the next morning we got up and the car was underwater. So the river had come up that much overnight, so we couldn't leave. And then we kept seeing some boats go down the street, rowboats. And then I looked out, and in a rowboat was coming up to the house was my granddad and my aunt and uncle and my little cousin Patsy, who was 2, and my other aunt. And here we are, 10 of us in this 3-room apartment, and the water's coming up. So my dad and uncle got on hip boots and walked down to the grocery store and to see if they had any food. And there were so many people in there, the shelves were empty, so they just took what they could and left money and came back. And so we had, by this time the lights went out, gas went off, so they had to build a fire in the grate, made some soup. And there we were, wondering what to do. And that afternoon, a man came over from the house across the street, which was a 2-story house, and he was going to take us across the street to a 2-story house. My aunt, who was kind of heavy-set, got in the boat and it sank. So she said, "Oh, this isn't going to work." So he said, "I'm going to have to leave and get a new boat." But he left and he never came back. So time marches on, it gets to be 8 o'clock at night, and it's winter January, so it's dark. The river's coming up. We could watch the slats on the house next door. So, I don't know, to me it was a great adventure, but I don't think it would have been for my parents, but I don't know. And so my aunt goes out on the front porch, and she sees a little light. There was a park at the end of the street, and she sees a little light in a boat, and she starts yelling, and she said, "Boat, boat, boat, come here, boat." And this voice from this boat comes back. Her name was Andine. And this voice says, "Andine, are you getting your feet wet?" And it was her brothers coming with help to get us out. Otherwise, I don't know how we would have gotten out, because the water was coming up fast. So we all got in this boat. Well, they brought 2 boats. During the Depression, Roosevelt started this thing called CCC, this Conservative Conservation Corps, and it was young boys that they would put in these barracks, and they would do work, and they would pay them to do work. And so they had a camp about 6 blocks from there. So they had picked them up, and they came in. They were helping evacuate people. And so there were 10 of us, so we were in 2 boats going out. And they didn't know, they were like kids. They didn't know how to row a boat. And the thing is that you can't imagine the currents. We were on 17th Street. if you think of the river at First Street, okay, we're at 17th Street and it's coming up on a thing. We had to go to 28th Street in this boat. Well, it took us from 8 o'clock at night until after midnight to go, because we would go, you know, two feet forward and 3 feet back because the currents were so straight. Anyway, we finally got out and ended up in the country for 6 weeks.